All right, let's talk Trump accounts. The newly launched Trump accounts on July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of our country's founding. The Trump accounts went live. They were much talked about prior to that. And there were also a lot of questions about the Trump accounts prior to them going live, right?
One of the biggest questions that we've gotten is why? Why should we open up this Trump savings account? A lot of it has to do with, you are, for the kids that are eligible to get some additional savings first, through the U.S. Treasury is one. They're willing to give up $1,000, deposit those into eligible accounts if your child's been born between the years 2025 and 2028. So within that time frame. And then there's also other ones, some private ones that you found too.
Yeah, I know Michael and Susan Dell in particular have a fund where the first 25 million accounts opened for children who reside in zip codes with median income below, I think it's $150,000, something like that. It's not a super low bar, right? This is a lot of kids who are eligible, and it's $250, no strings attached. And all you have to do, as far as I understand, is open the account and exist in that zip code, and $250 automatically, regardless of your age, whereas the $1,000 seed money from the government is, dependent upon being born January 1st, 2025 or later. This has no such requirement, just eligibility for the Trump accounts, which is under 18 years of age.
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of the contributions, they start with maybe a private institution like the families like the Dells, or the U.S. government starting it. But you as a parent, guardian, friend, grandparent, you can contribute to these accounts too. And each year it's a $5,000 contribution limit that goes into the account total. So encompassing all that goes into it. And what's unique about it is it's basically starting a retirement savings account for your child or grandchild or niece or nephew. And everything that you personally do or someone that puts into the account, that's all tax-free to the child later. The growth is what can be taxed later, is what we found out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I would say one of the great financial planning hacks, if you will, for kids. One of the best things you can do for your kids, your minor children, once they become old enough to have some kind of job and some kind of earned income, get them to start a Roth IRA, right? That's always been a bit of a hack, not a hack, but just something that not everybody knows or thinks about. But you do have to have earned income to do that, right? This functions similarly, right, to a Roth. It's a bit of a hybrid between the Roth and the traditional IRA, both of which require earned income, except there's no earned income requirement, right? You essentially can be funding this brand of retirement account for a child from birth, right? So really a big deal.
Yeah. And in the grand scheme of compound interest, it's a long time.
Yeah. One of the really neat things so the app itself and how it works, right? That comment made me think of that because one of the neat things that you'll find on the Trump Accounts app is a modeling tool for that, to see the miracle of compounding, right? You can set your contributions, you can set your estimate of investment returns, and you can set your time horizon to see what that account would be like under those assumptions at age 18, at age 60. And for people who maybe don't model that sort of stuff on a regular basis, it can be mind-blowing, right? People, I think, don't always understand the magnitude and the impact of compounding, but it's everything. The most important thing, as we discuss often in investments, is time horizon, right? And so this allows you to start funding at a time of maximum time horizon. It's a big deal.
Yeah. And especially the things that are within the account, what you can invest in, they're all going to be low cost ETF funds, where it's going to be major indexes to start. It's the S&P 500 that your kids are invested in. And then I've heard that it's going to broaden out to other indexes across the United States, I think, is the focus. So it'll be good.
Some of the contributions, and again, a lot of this is still being, we mentioned Michael and Susan Dell, their contributions, which are in the form of cash. But other private contributions, at least one I know, the COO of SpaceX is donating shares of SpaceX stock. So and again, this is some of the details that maybe are still being ferreted out here, but I think when you have cash in the account, you are limited to those low-cost U.S.-focused index funds. But, at least in one instance, they've made an exception where somebody is able to also drop in shares of a particular company. I personally think you're going to see a lot more of that. For me, my rationale in opening the account, my kids are too old to be eligible for the $3,000, but they're certainly, younger than 18, so eligible for the accounts. And I'm looking forward to making modest recurring contributions, which I know will add up. Also, though, I think it's a very real possibility that you're going to see more and more philanthropists, individuals, companies, entities of various kind contributing out of perhaps the goodness of their own heart, maybe because, frankly, I think it's in their best interest to do that. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that we can discuss. But one way or another, I think you're going to see continuing flow of funds into these accounts over time.
Because one way it's investing in the future of America. So
right.
The next generation or two down below you that you can have an impact on. So
yeah,
what a better way.
They're a big deal. The accounts are a big deal. Potentially, I think a game changer for society. I think a problem that I think a lot of people recognize we have is you have two basic groups of people in this country: the folks who have assets and the folks who don't. And the folks who have assets are doing fine and will probably continue to do fine. Whereas in the face of inflation and numerous other things, the folks without assets, they fall farther behind all the time. How do you turn the tide of that? There's no easy, quick answer to that, but something like this, where you give everyone from day one skin in the game, right, is a way to do that. And I think you're going to see a lot of the billionaires, the philanthropists, the companies who depend upon the way this society is structured for their success, seeing these as vehicles to help further that, help continue it, right? Make sure that we can all go together, right? It's not going to be the be all end all, but it is potentially a very important step in that direction.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the beginning part. So funding the account, right? And then when it's in there, how it's invested. But then what about after? Can I take the money out soon? Can I take it out, later down the road? At this point, it's set at age 18. You can't take any withdrawals out before that time frame. And then at 18, it goes from mom, dad, grandma, grandpa is over the account to now the minor is the owner of a new traditional IRA, which all that flows into from that Trump account. And at that point, that minor can do whatever they want. It goes with the IRA rules. So posted on the IRS website.
They can do whatever they want, for better or for worse.
Yep.
And that's how you may contrast this with, there's a couple other types of accounts that people, I think, are frequently asking about. How does it compare to a 529 or potentially a UTMA, Uniform Transfer to Minors account? 529, and these are all complementary, and I would say a well-thought portfolio. 529, education, right? And there's some caveats and some other things you can do with 529s, but fundamentally, you think of those for education. The UTMA is a brokerage account, right, for minors, which becomes theirs at a certain age with no strings attached.
Mm-hmm.
The Trump accounts become theirs at age 18, but with the standard strings attached that any retirement account would have, a traditional IRA or a Roth, where it's yours, you can do with it as you please, but we're going to penalize you if you take the money and run at age 18, right? And I think that's a good thing. I mean, that's part of what makes it complementary to the UTMA, for example. And there's really neat things, looking ahead, really neat strategies that already people are talking about and should be thinking about with these Trump accounts, where, let's say, it becomes, it's the minor who owns the account, it becomes theirs without any restriction at age 18. But what do they do with it, right? Probably a very good thing to do with it is, as you mentioned, the contributions are already Roth-like, but the gains are traditional IRA-like. So at that age, they're probably going to be in a low income bracket. That's probably a great opportunity to take and convert to Roth when you're in the lowest income bracket you're ever going to be in. So effectively, you've got a hybrid product that can become a Roth product very quickly after age 18. And that's about as good a retirement vehicle as you can have.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was when it was first announced, that was one of the big drivers for people thinking about adding into those accounts, is because, hey, I can kickstart tax-free savings for the future. They might pay a little tax initially when they do that conversion, but they're in the lowest tax bracket they're probably going to ever be at that point. So you can take advantage and convert at that point.
And I will say, having just done this, and I know you did as well, the user interface and the app itself is phenomenal. It's as good, I would say, as you'll find with any app, let alone a government created app. It is very slick, very easy, very user friendly.
Yeah. And what's unique about it too is it's only an app. So there is a website, but it always directs you back to the app before you can do anything within the account or on the account. So just keep that in mind as you have to use it on a mobile device, so a phone, tablet, things like that.